Here's the micro jaw. Notice how the vise is set up at a fairly steep angle. And notice how, if you see the midline of the jaw, the top of the hook comes in on the top side of the jaw, and the bottom of the hook comes out the bottom side of the jaw. It crosses the midline of the jaw. That's the best way to set up a hook in a micro jaw. This is a number 18 dry fly hook. Don't put anything larger than an 18 in a micro jaw. It's engineered specifically for small hooks. Okay, here we are back with the micro jaw at the proper steep angle. This is a number 24 dry fly hook. Notice how the top part of the hook comes in on the top half of the jaw, crosses the midline, and comes out below the midline of the jaw. And it is not flush with the tip, although you may not be able to tell that with the resolution that we have. There's at least a 32nd or a 16th of an inch of jaw extending beyond the hook wire. And again, you've still got plenty of room to get to the hook and tie the fly. Okay, here's the Omni jaw. We've set it up with a number 20 dry fly hook, just to show you that the Omni jaw can easily hold and tie 20s fairly comfortably. Again, notice there's a relatively steep angle because we have a fairly small hook. And also, if you can tell, the top of the hook comes in on the top half of the jaw and actually crosses the midpoint, and you can just begin to see the tip of the point of the hook coming out the bottom side. Now what this will show you though is because it's such a small hook, you're forced to move it very close to the tip of the jaw. This is why we have the interchangeable jaw system. If you're tying a lot of 20s, you ought to get a micro jaw. If you're tying a lot of 18s, get a micro jaw, because the micro jaw is designed specifically for smaller hooks. The Omni will serve you well if you do tie a few 20s or a few 18s. It's best in the 16 to 12 range. Okay, here's the Omni with the number 16 dry fly hook. Fairly steep angle again, and you can see the hook crosses the midline of the jaw, so the jaw is applying even pressure from the top and the bottom of the jaw to hold the hook nice and solidly. There's plenty of room, plenty of jaw extending beyond the hook wire. You'll be able to tie a bazillion number 16 like this, and the jaw will last forever. Okay, here's the Omni with a slightly larger hook. This is a number 10 hopper or streamer hook. It's got a longer shank. It can lever out of the jaw easier, and yet, if you notice, the hook wire crosses the midline of the jaw again. Comes in on the top, comes out on the bottom, crossing the midline. So the Omni jaw, there's plenty of jaw extending beyond the hook wire, is applying even pressure to the hook wire, and you'll be able to hold these hooks for a long, long time, nice and solidly, to tie your flies. Here's the Omni jaw with a number 6 hopper nymph hook. Pretty beefy hook, long shank, a little further back in the jaw to give it more steel, but same principle applies. It's got a slightly lower angle of the jaw, but it comes in on the top half of the jaw, and the hook point comes out below the midline. So you're getting even pressure, and you'll be able to hold these hooks forever. Finally, here's an Omni with a fairly large hook. Not quite as large as our other footage. I think we did a 2/0 in that. This is a number 2. We'd use this hook for big tube flies for stripers, for example. But notice again, it crosses the hook wire crosses the midline of the jaw. It's set further back in the jaw so that you get plenty of steel on the hook, enough to hold the hook well and without putting undue wear on the jaw. This is the same principle you'd use for longer shanked Atlantic salmon hooks or other hooks like that. So no matter what hook you use with an Omni jaw, cross the midline, move the hook further back in the jaw to get the purchase that you need to tie your fly. Okay, so here's a Magnum jaw. And just for the heck of it, people sometimes call up and say, will your Magnum jaw hold a 32? Yes, it will. This is a 24 dry fly hook in the Magnum jaw. it'll hold a very, very small hook. The issue is you won't get very good access to the hook. And again, that points out the engineering that goes into these different jaw styles for the HMH Vise. Choose the jaw style that fits the hook that you want to tie. Finally, here's the Magnum jaw doing what it does best, holding big hooks. When you're holding larger hooks like this, we can begin to move the hook or the jaw angle all the way down to horizontal if that's what you like, but the same principle applies. You've got the hook wire crossing the midline of the jaw for even pressure and a good tight hold for many, many years.